Hey folks, it's Shannon. I was talking to some of my friends about what happened last year with the Decan walk and realized that it might be a good thing to share in a video. So I wanted to talk about kind of what a Decan is, how I did my Decan walk last year, and how my practice is evolving going forward. So get some tea and let's jump into it. So just to normalize this for everybody, this grimoire started out as a completely different thing, but I repurposed it to be my Decan journal. Let me move this because this is gonna get in the way. Okay, so don't let the picture overwhelm you. This is just kind of one representation of the year, basically. So it starts with Aries, goes around, ends in Pisces. If you work with astrology at all, that'll make sense to you. And then each chunk of the year, so back up. The year is divided into 12 sections that we call zodiac signs. That starts with Aries on the spring equinox and goes around to Pisces. That ends again in March. If you break the signs down further into thirds, you have what we call decans, and they're called decans because they're 10 days or 10 degrees of the zodiac sign. So hopefully that makes sense so far. So you can see 0, 10, 20, up to 30, but 0 for the next sign, 10, 20, 30. So that's what a decan is. It's that 10-day chunk or 10 degree chunk of the year. And each decan is associated with a minor arcana from the tarot, a minor card from the tarot. And it's also associated with a lot of other things. But last year when I was doing this, I focused on kind of the majors and the minors that correlated with each decan. This is another example of a decan wheel that's a little bit more expanded. This one uses the Thoth. Why did I say that way? The Thoth. Instead of the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. So I don't have as much experience with the Thoth. So this one was not as helpful for me in some ways, but I show you options because there are options. So what I did last year, starting in March of 2023, was to follow along mostly with Marlena Teresa, but there were a bunch of other people in the online witchy spaces that were working through the decan that year. And each decan, I did a 2-page spread. So if we look at these, the first decan is ruled by Mars in Aries, and so it's Aries 1, and it corresponds with the 2 of Wands. So there's a lot of correspondences. This is the degrees of the zodiac, this is the days last year that it was, planet glyph, solar or sign glyph. And then I kind of journaled, and Marlena Teresa made up a bunch of very cool spreads throughout the year, so I often did those journal spreads or those tarot spreads and then journaled about them. And I kind of did that as the year went on. As the year went on, I started doing keywords for each decan too. And maybe a little bit less journaling. So that was Aries. You can see it's got Aries 1, then the second decan of Aries is the 10 degrees after that when the sun is in Aries, and then Venus in Aries. And associated with each of those is the minor card. So 2 of Wands, 3 of Wands, 4 of Wands. Hopefully this is starting to make sense, but if it's not, let me know down below and I can try to explain some more. So that was kind of my practice for the year, was just every 10 days or so I would make another 2-page spread, do another tarot spread, and kind of learn about all the correspondences that these tarot cards had. And then when we came to the end of the spring season, I stopped and kind of did some reflection, and left space to reflect in future years. So like this would be this year. Then there's a couple of things thrown in about like where my planets are in the decans that are kind of more complicated. We don't need to go into it, but I got excited. And Marlena Teresa developed a birthday decan spread that I did as well, which was pretty insightful. And then back into the 2-page spreads, and you can see kind of the titles, the correspondences, the keywords, and the spread with some journaling. So this continued on for the entire year, which I was, one, very proud of myself for sticking with something for an entire year. 2, I just learned a ton about astrology and about tarot in ways that I hadn't like thought about it before. I think specifically thinking about the ways that the planet's ruler, or not ruler, no, the planet that rules the decans, major arcana, and the major arcana of the sign that the decan is in, how those combined to make the minor arcana was a really cool thing to work through. It was a lot of learning, and it was a lot of very heady stuff, but also trying to feel kind of how I felt during these different decans and what made sense. And then stopping and reflecting. And the spreads are amazing. Marlena Teresa actually collected them into a book, so I'll link that down below because it's awesome and you should check it out. And it was just such a powerful practice. So I didn't ever do my winter decan reflections, which I need to do still. And then I want to do some reflections of the whole year, kind of talking about all the things that I learned in this practice over the year. But I thought I was done with the decans. And then Marlena Teresa put out another video kind of talking about the decans and how she's working with them now. And I realized that I think I want to keep working with them because there are other associations besides the major arcana. There's associations with the court cards, which is what I found this wheel for. This one's an RWS based one, if you know what Rider-Waite-Smith means. And so it's less set up for people that study using Thoth. So as I'm filming this, we're at the very end of Gemini 1. And so I think what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to continue to work with the 8 of Swords, but I'm also going to work with the King of Swords and the Page of Pentacles, and kind of walk through those as we go through the year and work with the court cards a little bit more. The other thing that I'm thinking I might want to do is kind of some path working with the cards. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but that's more to come, basically. So for those that don't know, path working is basically like journeying with the image in the card, or hedge riding with the image in the card and trying to see kind of what you learn about the card, is a very basic way to explain it. Yeah, so I'm curious, have you ever heard of the decans before? Have you worked with them? What ways have you worked with them? And is any of this interesting to you at all? And if not, that's totally fine. It's kind of the nerdy recesses of tarot, I feel like, which of course I find myself in. yeah, so hopefully this is interesting, and let me know what you think below. And here's another video that YouTube thinks you'll like.